Evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I wanted to talk today really mainly about people, or two people who are planning on coming to live here. And some of the letters that I get, they are from people who are planning to take a big plunge and come out here alone and have not yet found a girlfriend. So most people are coming out here for a second chance. I'm taking a guess and thinking that this is the main reason why people are coming, why men are coming. Women don't seem to come to the Philippines, although they come for a visit and they come to see, but they don't come for the same reasons that the men do. Now, I always say that as far as my input on coming to the Philippines goes, I'm not directing what I say to those people who are coming for the bar scene and the great looking girls who are available and all the true love that money can buy. I'm not addressing those guys. You should go off and find another site to look at, because what I'm thinking of is people who are coming out here and would like a second chance at life. A lot of men have been very badly burned and are coming out here in the hope that all of the rumours that they've heard, not all of the rumours, but all of the stories and the rumours that they've heard about Filipino women being the best wife, the most loving, the most caring, and all of those kinds of stories which they've heard and they hope are true. And it really does depend on you whether they are true. Now, I know that I'm going to get a lot of argument from people who have terrible horror stories, and I know that if I'm addressing you right now, I know that your horror story is real. I know it's true. How it is to be interpreted is another thing. Now, I'll probably get a lot of flack for this as well, but if you go to a bar to meet a woman, then the kind of woman that you will meet is the kind of woman that goes to a bar. And have I missed something out there? I don't really think so. So is it that all women that you meet in a bar are bad? No, it's not. Women who go to bars to find a job and get a job and keep a job and do a job in a bar scene, in a bar type of environment, are there for a purpose, and their purpose is probably really honourable. The kind of life that they will be pulled into is probably far from honourable. And it's that old saying of Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote probably the most famous book for motivation, and that is Think and Grow Rich. He wasn't talking about think and grow in dollars or pounds or whatever. He wasn't thinking about that at all. He was talking about thinking and growing rich in both material wealth and spiritual wealth as well. And one of the things that he said which really struck home to me was that if you take a man, woman, person, if you take someone and you put them into an environment with criminality. Now, let's define criminality of anything which is less than ethical, right? So, in other words, is it the kind of thing that you'd want your mom to know about, okay? So you go into that, you take a man and you put him into an atmosphere, an environment where there is criminality and a lot, and less than ethical behaviour, and an honest man, an honest person, and he will avoid, he will resist it, he will oppose it, he will, no, that's not for me, he'll refuse it. Now, if he has to stay there, he will learn to live with it. And then, when he's learned to live with it, he'll start to accept it in certain cases. And as he continues to learn, he will accept it more and more. And the final step is either he will have the realization, I don't think that Napoleon Hill made this differentiation, but I do. Either he will realize, wait a minute, I'm on a long slippery slope here and I'm going to get lost, so I'm out of here. And he'd leave, she would leave, or they would embrace it. They would embrace whatever the level of criminality was, they would embrace it. So that's the way that I'm thinking of people who work in the bar situation. And as a musician, of course, I've worked in many, many clubs, some of them clip joints, some of them where you had to keep playing so that if anybody rang on the phone and they answered it, they'd hear a band playing in the background, they'd think it was all buzzing, even if the place was absolutely empty. In other words, clip joints. I've worked in strip clubs. I've worked in places where they have a dance show with very scantily dressed women. I've seen all of that. I've seen all of the men getting drunk, the women getting drunk, judgment going out the window. I've seen all of that. And I'm well familiar, and I'm not a prude, and I'm not against anybody having a drink. But what I say is what the research shows, and that is as soon as people get into that situation and they either are exhausted or they've had a lot to drink, their judgment is impaired. That's why in places like California you have zero tolerance. There are people that have taken part in research projects where they have taken a drink and then they've done a little test, and then they've taken another drink and they've done another little test. And at every time they've had a drink, they've been asked, do you think that your judgment is impaired? How does it feel? Do you feel you're doing good? So then give them another test. And then they have another drink, and they have another little questionnaire. How do you think your judgment is? In practically all cases, the people were convinced that their judgment was not impaired. So, how does judgment being impaired impact the society of people around you? Well, if you're driving a car and your judgment is impaired, then you may kill somebody. And if you are a woman and you are doing something which your judgment would normally tell you not to, you might end up with a sexually transmitted disease, or you might end up pregnant. So, if you're coming and you're going, and I spent longer on this than I intended to, if you're coming for the bar scene, this is not for you. I'm talking about coming and finding someone who will tell you the truth, will be honourable, will be loyal, will have some integrity. Now, how are you going to find that? Well, you're not going to find it in a bar. And you're not going, probably, if you are, for instance, if you're going to find like and like to like, if you are an intellectual type of person and you like to have intellectual conversations, there's no point going down to the marketplace and finding a lady who makes her living selling bananas. It probably is not probably going to be the one for you. So where would you find that? Well, you'd probably enroll in some kind of education system, some educational course, and you would find people who were interested in change. Now the thing is that change is hard won. It's hard won. Even when you yourself are determined to change into a better person, the change that you achieve on a daily basis is hard won. It doesn't come easy. You will have to face a lot of dragons. You will have to conquer a lot of fears. So, when you realize that someone that you may like is not in an atmosphere of change, then maybe you should think again about forming a relationship. This is the point, is that as far as the eye goes, you could go out on any day. If you came to Bohol I could take you out on any day of the week, and especially at the weekend, and you would probably see, aesthetically speaking, in other words, going just on looks, you would probably see 10, 15, 20 women that on looks alone you would marry tomorrow. Now, once you have understood that and realized that if you're a normal red-blooded male and, to get crude perhaps for a minute, the other head is working as well, you can be taken in by this and think that it's going to satisfy you. Well, of course it's not. You need more than that. You need a lot of different things, and they're not going to be as easy to find. Aesthetics apart, looks apart, beauty apart. It's not going to be as easy here as it may be in another country like your own. Why would that be? Well, you have the language. It's the obvious thing. Now, it's not just the language. It's a whole host of things which are totally different. And it starts with very, very simple things, like you can pass somebody in the street and say, and we've had this, where we've had very gregarious people come and stay with us. And when we pass someone in the street, they go, "Hi," and they do huge action. And the Filipino answers that by this. That's all. And that's hello, how are you? So you can be a little bit miffed, It's like, well, wait a minute. I mean, the whole arm raise and everything there, the full palm showing and vocal and hi, how are you? I asked him how he was, and what did he do? Nothing, because your sensitivity is not turned up in order to be able to see these small things. If you beckon somebody, if you're from the West, you'll go like this, here. Well, they don't do that in the Philippines. They do this. It's a different thing. So what this illustrates to you is that the whole body language that you have been living on for your entire life and learning, and once it's learned, you submerge it so that it becomes automatic. It's not worth a light here. Now, let's get on to yes and no. Is it obvious? No, it's not. What I had to teach children here is I had to get them to say a yes and a no, which I understood. So I take their head and I say, this is yes, this is no. And we made a joke of it. But finally, when you speak, especially to a child who is maybe feeling a little inhibited because you are a foreigner, and you ask him a question, and he says, that's another one. This is yes. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. Now, how you put and place your yes and no is different too. So very often, one of the phrases which I use most often with Beth, my wife, who I've lived with for 4 years, understand that. This is not something that happened yesterday, and I'm still saying to her, is that yes we will or no we won't? Now, I may have asked her something like, we're not going to wait all day for this to happen, are we? And she'll say yes. So I think, well, and then in the old days, 4 years ago, I would say, no, I don't want to do that. And she would say no. Well, which is it? Is it yes or no? We're not going to do that then. And she'll say yes. So, here's my phrase. Does that mean yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not? And then I get the right story. So, boy, have you got something to learn? What's another thing? Now, is the Philippines going to change because you, in all your brilliance and in all of your education, everything about you is just going to be better, isn't it? You're more accomplished, you're more wealthy. Of course you're more wealthy if you're coming over here with a pension of even $1,500, you're wealthy. Do you have to work? No. Then you're wealthy. Okay? Now, are you going to be able to teach them all that you know just by being here? The answer is a Western no. Not a Filipino yes, meaning no. You're not going to be able to change them. I had a letter, a sincere message letter from someone who said that he was a master bricklayer and he had seen the way that hollow block is laid here, and it was an absolute shambles. And he was coming out here and he was going to show how to build houses. No, that's a Western no. No, he wasn't. He would come out here and he would make certain changes, and then he would walk away and leave it to be done the way that he had just shown them, and then they would do it how they've always done it. If you say to someone quite logically, come here, they will agree, yes, that's logical. And then when you turn your back, they'll call over to their brother or their sister or their friend and they'll say, here. And when they say yes, they'll say, and when they point to something, they'll do it with their mouth. So, you're in for quite a language change, and all of that language is going to be body language. And are you going to learn it, or are you going to step back and do what most expats do when they get here? They make a little mental comment to themselves, a mental statement. This is not how it's all done, and I know how to do it right. So, going on that statement as a logical an application that they put in says, I'm doing it right, and I'm going to make sure that everybody else does it right too. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to complain. I'm going to tell people. If I go into a store and they don't treat me right, I'm going to say, don't you have any customer service? Don't you know how to do this? If I go into a restaurant and they bring up my dessert before they bring up my main course, am I going to teach them, excuse me, are you supposed to be a waiter? Don't you know that the dessert comes second or last? Don't you know that? I've been in the restaurant trade for 30 years, you'll be telling them. I've been in the building trade all my life. I've laid hundreds of miles of roadway. I've dug up. And you'll go on. And what will happen is that the person that you're talking to will go, and what you will be facing is a brick wall. A very badly laid brick wall, okay? And it will come down like that. And why is that? Because they do not like to do the confrontation thing in this country. They don't want to do that. So the idea is that when they go out in the morning, that they're going to do what the famous comedian George Burns said. He said, every day I try to get through the day with the least aggravation possible. So, if you come up and you say, this is the way that it's got to be done, okay? They'll say, yeah. And then they'll do it the way that they can do it. The way that they've always done it. The way that their mums and dads showed them how it should be done. The way their teachers. the way that it's always been done. That's why change is slow and it's hard won. Because here's the difference, and I've said this so many times, the difference is that in the Philippines, right or wrong, good or bad, the people, generally speaking, are happy. Now, for my money, I never quite understand why expats come here and they've come from what has made them unhappy. They've come from a situation, a overregulated country that they are sick and tired of having an intrusive government tell them how they should or not shouldn't live their life. And they're sick of paying all of the taxes. You're taxed over and over and over, and anytime that you try to do anything, you're going to be overregulated as well. And they've left all that behind. That has become there. They've left it there. And they've come here. And what do they do as soon as they get here? They try to make it like there. But they left there to come here. What's wrong with the thinking here? The other thing is that they come over and they eventually, simply because it just seems almost impossible not to meet someone that you would love to be with. I never intended to get married. It wasn't something that I came here to do. And I was given the opportunity to have a happy life, a shared mission, things that I wanted to do, that my wife was willing to do with me and wanted to do with me. She wasn't somebody who hated football, but because I loved it, was prepared to sit at the television on the couch and do knitting or something, anything so she didn't have to watch those silly people charging around after a ball. No, we shared the mission. We reached it ourselves together. And so we're happy. But it wasn't planned. It happened. And chances are that if you're coming over, the same may happen to you. And it will take you by surprise. Probably pleasantly surprised. Okay, so things are going to happen. And unless you decide that you're going to make here the same as there, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be saying, no, this is, here's not doing it right. I need to make it like it was there. Because back there, I could go here and do that, and go there and do this, and go here and there and do both. And if I took my car in, this is what happened. And if I had my shoes repaired, and when I got a haircut, the man spoke English. What the heck is going on here? And if you become the critic, people will shake their head and wonder why you would do that. And if you come over and you do meet someone and they're happy and they are good to you, why would you want to make them like the women that you knew back there? Or Filipino-wise, I should say. So, get ready for some big change. Get ready for big change. And here's the clue. You're the foreigner. Nobody else is the foreigner. You are the foreigner. You are gonna have to change if you want to be happy. Now, I didn't know this statistic until somebody mentioned it on our channel. I get all kinds of good information on the channel by subscribers. And apparently the 6 or 7 years stay here is about it. That's when expats who haven't adjusted say, this is not good for me. am going back home. I can't go back home because I'm already home. And that's a big difference to what most expats say. And you will hear them gripe and moan and complain and compare, and it won't be good. It won't be pleasant. So, if you're coming here, come for a little while and go home. And process what you've seen, what you've heard, what you felt, and how happy you were. We've recently had a friend who came out here. Now, he got through a lot more money than he thought because he was building a nice house. So he made up his mind. He'd already knew that this was coming, but he went back to handle business, sell his business up, earn some money for a few months, and then come back here. Within weeks, he messaged and said, I can't stand it here. So, I wish you well, I wish you luck, and we will do more on this subject because it seems to be a subject that just never gets quite explained. So, I'm a foreigner in the Philippines and a happy man, and invite you here to change and perhaps find the same kind of happiness. It can happen. Somebody wrote to me and said, nah, I've been burned too many times. Maybe you have. We've all been burned. We could all write a book about horror stories. Sooner or later, you have to make up your mind you're leaving all of that behind. Or stay home. Thanks for looking in. Please comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. We're on our way now. We're just a few subscribers short. Numbers very, very small for making 40,000 subscribers. Come on, if you've been watching and you enjoy the videos and you haven't yet subscribed, it's such a small thing to ask, and you will help us to stay on. Bye for now.